go viral. Take a good look at the fit, lit from my head to my toes. They I wanna sip of the drip, watch out when they getting too close. Ay. Turn it up, cause the kamikaze. Don't you interrupt, everybody watch me. Gonna level up, no you cannot touch me. Chillin' in the cut, dodging paparazzi. Big bands feeling generous. Got a big house, that's my preference. Sitting pretty at the top, Mount Everest. Yeah, I'm bossy, dripping sauce. Cash spells like I'm Severus. Puff, puffing on the best asparagus. Take my sweet time, never in a rush. Cause I'm bossy, dripping sauce. Yeah, I'm elevated. Yeah, so innovative. Accelerating. Bossy. I'm elevated. Yeah, so innovative. Accelerating. Bossy.
Better run when you hear that. I said run when you hear that. You better run when you hear that. I said
Run when you hear that. You better run when you hear that. I said
run when you run when you hear that. I said
Hey, it's another Manic Monday here at OH.Report World Headquarters, but a Victory Monday yet again for us Browns fans on this National Nacho Day, and you better believe that we are going to partake. I'm Brian Skronsky. This is Travis Berardi,
Aloha.
the Fairly Odd Couple here at the OH Report, and this is just a great time of year. I gotta say, basketball's getting underway. College hoops is tipping off all over the place
Our
right
teams
now.
are doing terribly already.
It's not looking great, but we've got NBA going on. NFL is sizzling. High school sports starting to get into the nitty-gritty now of the playoff time. So it's just a great time to be alive and be here, buddy.
Yeah, especially when all of your teams have won in the past couple of days. So a Victory Monday all the way around. Hopefully our bets do well as well when we place Shin's bets here later on. But high school football, we still have a lot of teams left. I mean, usually we're focusing on like maybe 2 or 3. We have 6 teams still in a regional semifinal. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're going to dive into that to kick off the show here. We will also speak with Andy Jardy of Bally Sports. He's on the Cavs pregame, postgame, as well as the Guardians. He's going to weigh in on what they've been up to so far this year, touch on the Browns a little bit, and then the Guardians, of course, they hired a new manager today.
Stephen Vogt, baby.
So we'll see what Andy's thoughts are on them. The top plays and Phenoms winner. We're going to roll the clocks back all the way to Week 11, let you know who you guys voted in as the best of the best from last week, and then your brand new nominees from Week 12. There's some tough ones, I think, especially for the Phenoms.
Yeah, we had some phenomenal
You might say.
performances. Yeah, I can't get enough of that pun. But great performances that get their teams into week number 13. But before we get into that, how did you utilize your extra hour of rest when the clocks got moved back?
I got up at about 4:45 a.m. So
you didn't?
I strangely was like way thrown off. I was thinking about too many things, and I kind of forgot about that extra hour because I was like, I feel pretty rested for going to bed at
Normally
midnight and then getting up at.
So
I got about 6 hours.
It's not bad.
So I spent the bulk majority of my day yesterday because I got all my work stuff out of the way. Like, I actually got to get in a nice workout. It's been a while for that. We did some things around the crib. My daughter totally restructured her room, like ripped, every piece of furniture out of there, taped it all off, painted it, rebuilt a whole bunch of new stuff. So our whole house right now, Travis, it's starting to come together. It was under construction last week. You got to come by. You got to check out the new digs, courtesy of Home and Kitchen Supply. Big shout out to Bo and the guys over there making it happen. So it was a pretty eventful Sunday, I got to say, from top to bottom. So I spent my extra hour very well. You?
I used that hour, woke up, watched about 3/4 of the early game between the
And
Chiefs
Germany.
and Dolphins. It wasn't much. I mean, one offense did decent in the first half, the other offense in the second half. But still worth it. I spent most of the day trying to work sources to see where games are going to be for our high school football games. And
Flipping
Northmore one
through your
was in-
Rolodex.
Yeah, just hitting up people, saying where it's going to be so we could let our folks around here know. And, watch football. Didn't have to worry. My Steelers won on Thursday night, so it was very relaxing, as did my fantasy football team. So
That a boy.
we're all good. We're all relaxed. We're ready to go for another fun-filled week here at the OH
Just a
Report.
carefree Sunday all the way around for us. All right, you mentioned that we still got 6 teams
Yeah.
that are dancing in the tournament in high school football right now, and I know that our coverage area continues to grow just a little bit with each passing season, but still, even with our big web around 7-8 counties or so, that's a lot of teams still competing, and we're going to break down the action, the matchup for every single one of them, Travis. So we're going to begin with the big schools and work our way down to the little guys as we typically do, and let's begin in Division 3, Region 10 with the Mansfield TY Tigers. And you want to talk about not having a carefree, stress-free Friday. Wow, what a whirlwind it was for Tigers fans
Oh,
who
absolutely.
weren't allowed to go to the game. They had to move the event all the way to Rocky River, but they won big time. I think they set a couple of offensive records, and now guess what they get? The number 1 team in the state, and I think the biggest favorite to win in any division, the state championship, outside of maybe Marion Local in Division 7. But Toledo Central Catholic, the defending Division 2 state champions, moving down to D3, Travis. And this Irish team, who averages 41 points per game, their season low, 28 points per game. They've scored 83 so far in their playoff games against Bowling Green and Defiance. And last week, though, maybe the biggest test that they've had all season. They did get kind of pushed. They needed 2 kick return touchdowns to win that game. So you're looking at the Tigers, who also had a great week, winning 9 straight, outscored Lex and Rocky River 85-34. And during this win streak, the Tigers have put up a lot of points, 30 plus 8 times, Trav. So you telling me there's a chance? Well, no, that's what I'm telling you. I think it's at least going to be an interesting game that you can't count out the Tigers, but they're going into this one a healthy underdog, probably a couple scores.
Yeah, well, not only going up against last year's Ohio State champion, but a Catholic school champion in the Detroit area, because Toledo Central Catholic plays Detroit Catholic schools because nobody else will play them around in the Toledo area. So you could say they're the best team in not only one state but 2. But these TY Tigers, Chokey Bradley, he had his guys ready after everything that went on. You knew he was the right guy. That was the right team to go on in week number 12, but it's the TY Tigers. They got a pretty darn good defense. They have a lot of good playmakers as well going up. This should be a good game. I think this is going to be the best test that Toledo Central Catholic's had all year, just because this is a very battle-tested Mansfield Senior Tiger squad. And, there's going to be I think there's going to be people outside of our area that are going to be very surprised at the outcome of this game, win or lose for the Tigers, because this is going to be a good one.
Senior High's got a senior quarterback. They got the stars on the outside.
the star.
Amar doing his thing. But defensively, you brought that up, Travis. They've only allowed 23 points in the last 5 games of the regular season. So this team's hitting its stride at the right time, has not lost in a long time against some tough competition early on. So I think it's going to be a very interesting game. And you see there at the bottom, Tiffin Columbian and what they were able to do, kind of exposing Ontario a little bit with that high-powered offense. You got to kind of like the number 3 seed to move on against either the Tigers or Toledo Central Catholic, who, like I mentioned, though, they are a big favorite to move on and win the entire enchilada. All right, let's move on ourselves here, and let's check out Division 4, Region 14, where we've still got the Shelby Whippets, the number 3 seed. They got 10 wins, but they got to go up against state number 5 Glenville, who also is a defending state champion. The Tarblooders, 15-0 last season, and arguably the most dominant team in the state as the D4 state champs. They lost to Hoban in Week 8. Since then, though, check out this stat, Trav. They've outscored their last 4 opponents 171-14. Yoinks!
They actually put up the 3rd most points ever in a playoff game. I tweeted that out on Friday night. I just had to go through, looking through since 1990. 71 points, the third most. It's tied with two other teams who put up 71 on Friday night and the week before. And then Massillon put up, I think, 74 or 75 a couple years ago. So Shelby has one of the best offensive performances in the state of Ohio ever in playoff history. And they're going to need that against Glenville. I think if they want to win against those Division I recruits, those Ohio State commits, they're going to probably have to get into a shootout. They're going to have to, really get the pass game going and also have that rush game going. But if they play like they did last week, especially in that second half, again, I think people are going to be very surprised at the outcome of this one.
Whippets did put up those 71 points against a Van Wert team that gave Glenville their best game last year, and I know that was a season ago, but offensively, Shelby should be equipped. I mean, they've scored 207 travs since week 8. That's only a handful of weeks ago, and we've seen the defense play inspired at times. They did have shutouts in weeks 10 and 11, so I think that they also could make this a very competitive game. Looking at it as an outsider outside of the area, you might think, well, the Tar Blooders, all those recruits, like you said, coming off the state championship.
Yeah.
This should be an easy one for them, but not so fast, my friends. This sophomore quarterback, Braden DeVito, this pass is 51 yards on the fly, on the money.
He's put up numbers. We talked about not only him, but Bogpin Miller at Ontario. These two guys, the way Braden DeVito can run the ball and pass, I keep saying it, he should be at least up for consideration for Mr. Ohio. I don't care if he's a sophomore or not. He is putting up huge numbers that, like I said, one of the main reasons why they put up 71 against a Van Wert squad that had some very good playoff success in the last few years. But look at those passes and look at the players he has. He has Lance out there. He has Isaiah Ramsey, and then they also have a rushing attack. So, like I said, if they can get into a shootout, I think they have a chance. That defense, they can make one or two plays, a couple plays. I mean, are you going to be able to contain Glenville? I don't know with what they have. But if you can make a couple plays, maybe get the ball back once, get a couple stops, momentum. Or can Glenville?
That's right.
The main question, can Glenville contain
shut down the baby goat? That's the
Whippets.
question we should be asking around here. Maybe we're asking all the wrong questions. And then up at the top of your screen, you see West Holmes. They got to take on the Perkins team, who I think, aren't they ranked number 2 in the state?
They've
been
a tough test, though. They had a tough test, though,
almost
last
everybody.
week. That was their first one. Their first test that they had was last week. They had to come back and win by 7. But West Holmes also
had to come back in the
waning
last
seconds, knocking off Gallion on a tip drill
heartbreaker.
Touchdown.
Sorry, Tigers. But West Holmes, they're kind of one of those teams that now they've seen it. They've been in the playoff picture for the last several years, been to this distance quite a few times, so they may be able to give Perkins a game at Harding. Let's move on. Division 6, Region 22. The 9th-ranked team in the state, Columbus Grove, is going to be taking on the 4th seed in Cary.
Baby!
Grove hasn't lost since week 3 versus Patrick Henry, who's still playing. Cary hasn't dropped a game since week 2 versus Gallion, who was almost still playing, but both the Bulldogs and Blue Devils, they are nasty on defense. A combined 7 shutouts for these two, so I think it's going to be a big physical game down in the trenches. But these Blue Devils, Travis, I've seen it. I've witnessed with my own eyes. They've got a great coaching staff. They got dudes that are nasty. They're physical down in the trenches. They had 6 different players score touchdowns this last week, and that way they're a little bit fresh. Eli Steen, he's the sophomore. He's kind of the bell cow who will get 15, 20 carries, but they can bring in 4 or 5 other different guys. They just cycle them through into that backfield. And with Carter Smiley running the offense, I think this is a
Nearly
very
1,000 yards passing,
dangerous team. I kind of like the Blue Devils.
Talk about their defense, though. Guess how many sacks they have on the year?
A lot.
27. 27 sacks.
Couple of games.
26 takeaways, 18 interceptions, 8 fumble recoveries. This is that, remember that Cary defense that took them to a state championship game?
Oh, you see some parallels, huh?
Right up there with them. And then they have, I think Carter Smiley's ability to pass the ball, especially as of late, has really opened things up for them. They had a bit of a passing game, but they relied on the run. Once again, that state championship run. And with Eli Steen, a mini RV, what would that be? Like not a Winnebago.
Yeah, they had the Winnebago.
Airstream, that's it. Yeah, it's the Airstream, not quite the RV yet, but the Airstream. That's exactly what I was thinking of. But Eli Steen there, and they also neither corps 500 yards rushing.
Beast.
Norden, 300 yards rushing.
Beast.
Putnam, 273. And then you have Carter Smiley with 971. However, Alex Putnam also with 267. So you may see a little, pitchy woo-woo pass out there from them. Some trickery they could pull out their sleeves. But this is, again, a carry team that has been very, very impressive this season. And back in the Sweet 16.
I don't know if they've got pitchy woo-woo up on their whiteboard, Travis, but whatever they're doing, they've scored 48 or more 4 out of their last 5. The Dogs, though, have scored 40-plus 5 times this year. So while I think it's the defense that's going to end up winning it for one of these two teams, they both have an offense that can get it done. So who knows? Maybe a team who cracks into the upper 20s gets the win.
Yeah.
Definitely going to be a fun one at Fostoria. I'm going to be on the call for that one. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Columbus Grove, real quick, passer best sophomore, 1,267 yards passing. They have a rusher, 1,388 yards receiving, and then they have a couple receivers too. But it's just like one of those teams that they faced in that tournament run before.
Yup.
Cary blanked number 5 seeded Columbia as well last week, which was one of the most impressive wins in D6.
All right.
Let's
move on.
Because another impressive
D6.
win's coming up.
Region 23, the Golden Knights of Northmore got to go up against state number 2 Garaway with a spotless 12-0 record. The Pirates outscoring their playoff opponents 94-14 so far. They've only been held under 40 points twice all season, Travis, and they've only allowed multiple scores 4 times all year. So while I know that you're going to make a great case for these Golden Knights, boys, this by far their biggest challenge of the year. I think maybe even a bigger challenge than the Blue Devils of Danville.
I would have to say yes because Garaway's a little bit more balanced. Garaway, their junior quarterback, 2,100 yards passing. They have a junior running back with 1,000 yards receiving, but 1,000 yards rushing. But they have most of their receiving yards coming from one player, which is a key because Northmore has a very good secondary, so they might be able to shut that down and allow them to play the run a little bit. But the Golden Knights, a 2,200-yard passer in A.J. Bauer.
Oh, you don't say.
A 1,000-yard rusher, well, off by 14 yards, but Carson Campbell, a sophomore, 986.
Weapons.
And they have multiple 600-plus yard receivers in Jack Swinger, 778 and 14 touchdowns.
Woo.
Bo Landon, 638 yards and 12 touchdowns. And then if you need somebody at the goal line that wants to punch it in, you got Paul Kramer.
Okay.
That can punch in 11 rushing touchdowns to go along with Campbell's 12. So they have that balance. They don't just go to one guy, maybe like what Garaway does with their receiving core. This is going to be a game. After what I saw from Northmore last week, the defense only gave up 103 yards rushing to Trimble, or total yards to Trimble, and the only points that Trimble scored was on a pick 6, the one mistake by A.J. Bauer. So this Northmore squad, they are ready to go.
Saving their best for last, Travis. They've won 7 straight, scored 30-plus 6 times during that stretch, and they've held 6 of those opponents to 7 or fewer points. So I do like what we're seeing from them. On to Division 7 Region 25 we go, and the Downton Bulldogs going to be playing St. Paul, number 13 seed, making a case for themselves to get into the regional championship. The Flyers have won 5 in a row. They upset Toronto, put 56 on them. Mr. Berger went off for a whole bunch of touchdowns in that one. And then Malvern, 20-14 on the road. And I think that combo of Ben Berger and Josh Pokos, they've been kind of a crazy 1-2 punch that you definitely don't want to overlook because they're the number 13 seed.
2,753 total yards combined. 39 total touchdowns combined between Mr. Pokos and Mr. Berger.
That's a lot.
Pokos, one of the top rushers in the area, and our folks in North Central Ohio are going to get a treat because this game is going to be at Ashland's Community Stadium.
Dig it. I like the venue. I like the matchup. The Bulldogs, their only loss, you got to go all the way back to week 1 versus Kirtland,
By 7, I believe.
who may win Division 6 this year.
Yeah.
Who knows? Grayson Siders, he's a big play waiting to happen every time he touches the ball. I have not seen somebody that has as many carries and touches as he does. He's averaging 12 yards per clip every time he gets a rush, Travis. He's got 30 touchdowns now on the year. He might be the most explosive player that I've personally witnessed this season. Got to watch him just go bananas against Lucas last week. And then, there's that matchup. I think of the 2 defenses in this one. Can one of them slow down the other rushing attack? I don't know. I don't think so. I doubt it. I think this one's going to be definitely in the 30s. The winner might be in the 40s and probably about 300 total yards rushing.
Yeah, this is going to come down to the defensive lines and linebacking cores of both sides because that running game, you might see a little bit more passing from Dalton's side, but St. Paul, you just have to stack. You have to go up against those defensive backs. That's how you beat St. Paul. Is you got to stop. You have to try. You're not going to stop the run. You just have to try and contain the run against them because they just have such a good line that just wears you down and wears you down. But Dalton, they're the number 1 seed for a reason. They played in the WCAL and played against some very good competition there. And even Lucas was
beat them all. They were
on fire. I told you, the best 3-loss team in Division 7 football. And I think the turning point of that one was the fumble. Lucas up 10-7. The kickoff that got muffed. Dalton recovered it. Went down, scored. So special teams might be in play as well.
Well, St. Paul might be the best 4-loss team in Division 7. But
true.
let's talk about the second game in that bracket. State number 4, Danville, versus number 6, Lowville. 2 teams, just 1 loss between them. And I think adding Coldwater has kept the Devils at an elite level coming off of last year. That tragedy, Travis, where we thought they were going to beat Warren JFK, go to the state Final Four.
Half a foot away from that sack to end it.
So close. The only test the Blue Devils have faced all year was that OT game that you're looking at right here. East Knox in a mud pit where they had to beat them in extras. Outside of that, running clocks in 9 of 12 games for Danville. The Rockets are pretty good too, though. They've outscored their playoff foes 66-7, and 7 of their wins, they've been tested, are over teams that are in the postseason. Their defense rarely gashed by anyone. They've held 6 opponents to 1 score or less. So I think both of these games, very interesting, but that's 2 high-level squads in that number 2 versus number 6 matchup that you could see either squad moving forward from this one.
Well, you got to think that Danville game in Week 10 too, they're not going to have to face a muddy turf anymore. They're going to be on playing turf the rest of the way, so that's going to help them. That's the one reason how East Knox was able to be in that game was because it just got so sloppy there that you couldn't get your footing. But still, that was a good test for Danville in Week 10. They already had the number 2 seed locked up. They already had a conference championship pretty much locked up too, and to be punched in the math by your rival, that helped them out. But for Lowville, their quarterback, Balone, the senior, he has 1,748 yards passing, 819 yards rushing, that dual threat component. And Lucido, their receiver, 723 receiving yards. They also have another receiver, kind of like what Northmore had. They faced Northmore. That was their second toughest. It was a 12-point victory, I believe, or 12 or 13-point victory over Northmore in week number 6. But it's an offense kind of looking like that with Northmore. However, their quarterback can run the ball in like A.J. Bowers. So Danville's faced an offense like this before. It's just good. Can their secondary just keep up?
Well, there you have it, folks. That's your mini pigskin in a blanket right here, packaged up in a digestible little consumption form for you right here on the OH.Report video podcast. Don't keep talking about the nachos because they're right on this table right here. The aroma, it's been tickling my nostrils, and we got to get this show moving along. That way we can get to National Nacho Day. But before we do that, we got to throw it in the time capsule, take you all the way back to week 11, and we give you guys a big responsibility every single week here on the OH.Report. A bunch of phenoms, very worthy of being the best of the best, but according to you, this was the best performance from week number 11. The people of North Central Ohio and beyond have decided that Austin Niederkorn versus Crestview was the best performance that they had seen. This guy does it all for them, not just running the ball where they flip him in the backfield. He can flank out wide. He sets in at tight end and makes some big blocks. He can bruise you down at the goal line. But I think his best asset is being a defender. There he is, skying for an interception. He had several tackles on the night too. Mr. Niederkorn is your phenom for week number 11.
Before we get, I got a nickname for Steen.
I'm paused.
Ashley Boardman, Steenroller. Yeah.
So we got the Winnebago from the last couple of years, and now the Steenroller doing his thing.
Thank you, Ashley, for that. I like it. Anyway, continue, sir. Had to get that out.
And now for your top play of the week from week number 11. We come up with nominees, you decide, and this was the best play on the opening weekend of the playoffs. Galleon's Lincoln Tyrell gets the block punt. And the Tigers gonna get the touchdown too as they fall on top of it in the end zone. Check it out one more time. Flying in, getting a big Cub paw on it. Or a Tiger paw, I should say. Tiger Cub. And then they get it in the end zone for 6. That is your play of the week from week number 11. All right, Trav, let's get back to the present now. And just from this last Friday, a lot of great performances.
Yep.
We are at 8 games, I do believe. So without further ado, let's set them up. Here come your Phenoms. It's time to meet your Friday Night Phenoms from Week 12 of the high school football season, presented exclusively by Knox Community Hospital. The top-seeded Bulldogs proved that Downton had more bite than bark in their win over Lucas, as senior running back Grayson Siders delivered numerous big plays in their regional quarterfinal victory, entering the end zone 4 times with 228 total yards of offense, averaging more than 13 yards per touch, which is impressive in its own right, but it's just a shade above his gaudy season average. What an unbelievable final year it's been so far for Siders. Our next Phenominee helped lead one of the highest scoring offensive nights in OHSAA playoff history, and he's just a sophomore. Shelby quarterback Braden DeVito had a record-setting night with 425 passing yards and 3 scores to complement his more than 120 rushing yards and 2 TDs on the ground. The Whippets dropped 71 points on Van Wert in the win, with DeVito accounting for nearly 550 yards of total offense. Our third Phenom nominee is the Green Bear Chase Miller from the hills of Ottawa. This junior QB had an incredible night that helped make history, advancing to Week 13 to try for their first ever regional title. Miller went 14 of 22, had 4 passing touchdowns, 7 carries for 73 yards, and a combined total of 231 yards overall. This Green Bear heavily contributed to Ottawa Hill's season staying alive. Nominee 4 was laying the boom in multiple phases of the game, as Northmore's Caleb Chenier was perfect in the kicking game, going 4 for 4 on extra points, while sending a 27-yard field goal through the uprights. But he was not done, as he also picked off a Trimble pass, while also laying some wood on a key 3rd down stop you're going to see right here. Boom! As Northmore is moving on into the Sweet 16. Your next Phenom is Tiffin Columbian senior running back Damian Brockington. We couldn't predict the forecast with what Brockington had in mind for this game, but playing inside Tornado Alley, this EF5er couldn't be stopped from touching down. Brockington had 18 carries for 194 rushing yards, 2 receptions for 59 receiving, and 6 total touchdowns, leaving a total debris path length of 263 yards on Friday night. Brockington now also holds the record for most rushing touchdowns in a single season for Columbian. And you thought you were getting a week off from the Danville Blue Devils and the Phenominees? Come on now. Cole DeLauder, or as the locals are referring to him as the Cole Train, and the boys in blue pounded the Springfield Tigers. But it was Cole who couldn't be stopped. 175 yards on the ground with 2 touchdowns, and he averaged a 1st down on every single carry. If this guy isn't scary enough as a rusher, his blocking is downright diabolical. Until somebody finds a way to slow down these Devils, you can expect continued appearances right here on the Friday Night Phenoms. It's now time to vote for this week's Phenom. Comment the number of your favorite performance below to decide who did it best. And don't forget to get in your double dip if you're eating your nachos right now. Get a bite and then put it right back in there. Times 2 votes tonight when you're watching live and free on the OH.Report video podcast. Some great plays, though, on the way here. Let's just serve up some top cuts right now, hot and fresh. Here come your top plays from Week 12 of the high school football season, brought to you by the good folks at Knox Community Hospital. We're going deep for nominee number 1. Here's Shelby QB Braden DeVito launching a rocket ball. This is going to travel 51 yards on the fly to a stretching Isaiah Ramsey, who hauls it in and takes off for an 87-yard TD as the Whippets knock off Van Wert 71-41. Next up is Downton senior back Grayson Siders, who evades a pair of Lucas tacklers in the backfield and shakes free from a 3rd on his way to a 51-yard touchdown spurt, just before the end of the first half. Watch again as Siders breaks away from a couple of arm tackles in the backfield, and nobody's going to catch him as he throws it into high gear to carry his Bulldogs on to victory. Our third top play nominee is senior back John Perozic, who made Eagles fans need a Perozac with this huge 54-yard receiving TD to tie the game. Please consult your doctor before trying to tackle Perozac, as side effects may result in the inability to take down ball carriers, as this Green Bear looked more like the Green Hulk on that TD run, mixed with a side of the Flash. Our fourth top play gave our Travis Berardi flashbacks to the immaculate reception as Northmore tight end Cameron Golback was right in the right place, right time for the tip drill catch. We got to watch this again in slow-mo as he picks it right off of the green carpet for an amazing reception. Top play number 5 goes to senior running back Damian Brockington. Watch as this swirling vortex breaks through the Warrior tribe and carries 50 yards to the house, as nothing could stop this F4 tornado from ripping through the playing field right inside of Tornado Alley. And it looks even more lethal in slow motion with Brockington setting a new program record for rushing scores on this night. We saved our final nominee for number 6 because, well, that's how many Cary Blue Devils scored in their shutout win over Columbia. But how about this 41-yard jump by Alex Putnam, tossing would-be tacklers aside on his way in for 6. And as we slow it down here a bit, your peepers will feast on the awesome cutback and this savage stiff arm that sends Putnam on his way for a Blue Devil score. Vote for the best play of the week right now by submitting a comment below. Do it. Do it now. Get votes times 2. Blue Devil fans, I know you're out there. Of course, make your vote count twice right here and now. Travis, I think it's time that we kind of shift and let's go to the center of the sports universe. I think you know where that's at, right? Cleveland, Ohio. No, come on, man. We've got Andy Jardy, one of the great graphics guys for the Guardians and, of course, for the Cavs. And
puns, too.
Great puns all the way around. So I'm curious, what's the most eligible bachelor in Lakewood doing on a Monday night? What's up?
Oh, I'm just enjoying college basketball season tipping off. I mean, what a beautiful day this is. The slate's not great, but there's college hoops on, and that, to me, is just a beautiful thing.
It is beautiful, Andy. Very gorgeous defense, though, yesterday by the Browns. Was that more about going up against a rookie, making his first start, or are you starting to drink some of that orange Kool-Aid on the defensive side of things?
I think the defense is legit. I mean, they did what they were supposed to do yesterday. That's a terrible Arizona Cardinals team. And I think us as Browns fans, that spread came out and you saw a 13-point favorite. And you're like, I'm still nervous. I'm still nervous. But, you know, I was at work yesterday with the Cavs, so I got to see bits and pieces of the game working on stuff. But every time it sounded like Spiro was calling another sack or an interception by the Browns defense. So it's so Cleveland that they're 5-3. And everyone else in the division is also at least 2 games above 500. Like, even when we finally have a successful season, the rest of the division decides that they're also going to be unstoppable. So we'll see what happens here. Tough game this week with the Ravens. But, yeah, I mean, they're at least in it, which is something we haven't been able to say for a while now.
Yeah, it's been a long while, Andy. I do want to tell you, though, the quarterback, Mr. Toon, yesterday, a QBR of 1.3. That's the lowest I think I've ever seen. He threw for like 65 yards and 2 picks. It was about as dominant. It might be the worst first start since Johnny Manziel against the Bengals a few years ago, and I'm sure that you remember that one.
Yeah, bang my head on the clipboard. I know that wasn't the game, but yeah, those were some ugly numbers. Thanks for bringing that memory up again, too.
Memories in Cleveland at the quarterback position. We have so many.
Well, isn't it cool, though,
they're
that
beautiful.
All 4 AFC North teams are in playoff position right now? That's you might be, you just said it. It's weird that you're having a great season, but everybody else is too, but it's still good enough to get you into the postseason at this moment, halfway through the season.
Yeah, if it started today.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know how the Browns and Steelers are, like, winning in the fashion that they are. Like, Pittsburgh has just for so long, like, I think that they just know how to win. It's a culture thing. It's like Ohio State
I don't know how
football
we win
this year,
anymore.
too, where it's like, how are they winning some of these games? But all they know how to do is win. And I
matter
think
what.
the Steelers get a lot of luck and breaks to go their way. And oddly enough, the Browns have had some of that too, where like the officials have kind of helped them out this year, which we're not used to. But yeah, I thought the AFC North was kind of a weak division coming into the year because I thought the Bengals and Ravens would be there and the Browns and Steelers would be mediocre at best. But hey, the AFC looks like it might be up for grabs. I mean, the Dolphins can't beat anyone with a winning record. The Chiefs look great at times, but then not great. And the Bills, I think, are frauds. I'm going to go on the record and say that. So who knows? We're halfway through. Teams can figure it out still, but I think every team in the AFC North has like a legit case that they could make a run on this thing.
Agreed.
Now, acting like a Steeler fan, I should be like, well, you won those games because of the refs, but you guys have gotten the stiff of it for so long. Brian's been like, we never get any breaks. He said that a couple weeks ago, and then you finally get some breaks. So hopefully you can stop saying that because at least you're getting some.
It was one game.
No,
one game.
Two games. Keep going. Continue.
Are you talking about the Cardinals? We didn't need no breaks
No.
yesterday.
Before that,
we was breaking quarterbacks' legs.
The
in the
phantom pass
backfield. It was
interference
unbelievable.
against Indianapolis, the call against the 49ers, which you should be getting those because you guys have been getting stiffs for so long
It was
that
the
it's given.
Stiff that beat the 49ers.
Okay.
They beat
Yes, that
themselves
little
with
kick.
that
I
missed
gotcha.
kick. But Andy, this is what excites
Yes.
me as a Browns fan. Okay, Deshaun Watson comes back. He threw some dimes. He threw some duds too. But when I watched and they were showing on the sideline, his teammates seem to be backing him. They're behind him. They are having fun with Deshaun out there on the field. When he threw some deep balls, it did not appear as though he's affected by that injury. So it gave me a lot of causes to smile as a fan, I think. What about you?
I'm not a Deshaun fan. I'm going to go out on the record and say that. I did not want him here. I would have been much happier with literally any other quarterback out there. Having said that, yes, he made some good plays yesterday. And the whole thing is very, very confusing to me because, why did he ever start in that Colts game? If he clearly wasn't good to go and you saw that he was not good to go, why did they ever play him to begin with? And this week he looked significantly better. That had never been an issue, but the timing is still really off, I think, for him. Some of his decision making looks just like he's a little bit behind still. We'll see what happens down the stretch, but it is interesting to think where would this team be if they had kept Jacoby Brissett? You know what I mean? If we didn't have to play a PJ Walker or something, maybe they win another game or two and they're sitting with only one loss right now. They probably don't lose the game in Pittsburgh. Deshaun looked so bad in Pittsburgh. Right off the bat, it was like he was a deer in headlights, throwing that pick six right off the bat, or the interception right off the bat. Was it a pick six? It was a pick six.
It was pick six, yeah.
So, it's just interesting to think if you had kept any sort of legit backup QB where this team could possibly be.
Well, think about all the injuries they're going through on the offensive line. No Nick Chubb. I think that's kind of already in people's rearview mirror. They're acting like the best running back in football. All of a sudden, not available, and it's no big deal. But they've been able to piece together a few parts. Kareem Hunt coming off the street, and it's working out so far. So given what we've seen this whole season collectively as a unit, I know you're watching every single week very closely. Are you buying the Browns as a legitimate playoff contender as we got to take on the Ratbirds this week? That's a very tough one. And then we get the Steelers at home these next 2 weeks. I think they're very critical, but are you buying the Browns seriously this season?
I think I am. I was not at the beginning of the year. I remember having conversations with you where I was like, dude, I don't get it. Every year we do this, and I'm not falling for it again. I refuse to get my hopes up until they prove me wrong. And I think they are a legit playoff contender. I don't think that they're a legit, deep run in the playoff kind of team, but that defense can kind of keep you in any game. And I think it's also worth noting Chase McLaughlin, doesn't miss. So if you have a great defense and a kicker that can make kicks, they've got chances to maybe, steal a game just on those two things alone. So, we'll see what happens here coming down the stretch. But I think this Sunday in Baltimore is going to be really tough, and I don't think that changes my outlook on the season. Now, if they go in and somehow win that game, then whoa, we're talking about a completely different scenario here. But that's probably a loss. But then I think when you get Pittsburgh at home, that's a must win. You cannot lose home division games.
I'm with you.
And I think with the way that Pittsburgh game went earlier this year too, like you have to find a way to win that game, and I think they will. But we'll see. This week's going to be tough. I think they have a favorable schedule down the stretch.
Absolutely.
I know they still have to go to Cincinnati.
Five after that, Andy, are very winnable. When you look at it, we're going to get to play the Bears. We get to play the Texans. Jacksonville, I think, at least comes to Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. So there's some openings there as we start getting into weeks 16, 17, and 18, where you kind of like the Browns to put themselves in a position. But these next 2 weeks, those are the big ones, because with the AFC North, that's you got to win those games, and especially at home, like you said, against Pittsburgh. So it's going to be a fun race, no question. And who would have thought at the beginning of the year that this would be the best division in football? I was actually counting out the Bengals, didn't think they were going to be much, and I, too, didn't think that Pittsburgh was going to have much of a roster. But I really thought at the beginning of the year that the Browns had the best collection of talent in the AFC North, and at least defensively, they're showing it where they're healthy.
Well, I said that the Ravens were going to be terrible, and they got that Ratberg magic or something. It hurts me, but I'm kind of rooting for the Browns I hate that. If the Browns win this weekend, that changes the whole complexion of the AFC North, because that would make –
for sure.
That'd be a three, possibly four-way tie at the top of the division.
Yep.
Going into the final half of the season, and with Pittsburgh's win over Cleveland, that makes that game even more important because of the tiebreakers and such like that, and with the Steelers already beating the Ravens. So a win over for Cleveland changes the whole complexion of not only the AFC North, but probably the whole AFC playoff race, with Buffalo losing, with Miami against Kansas City, with Kansas City itself. That 2 seed is still up for play.
Yeah, if the Browns lose Sunday, I think the chances of winning the division are basically impossible, because you would be 2 games behind the Ravens, just to the Ravens themselves. They would have swept you for the season. So, I mean, if they lose, you can probably kiss the AFC North goodbye, but there's still a ton to play for in terms of playoff positioning. And if the Browns find a way to win, we're going to have to dust off the tiebreaker scenarios and start getting really far down into what qualifies. You're going to start going to winning percentage against the division outside of the North. It's going to get real weird, but I'm all for it. Let's see what happens.
Well, it is hoop season now, Andy, so let's talk about those Cavaliers, bro. Off to an interesting start, to say the least. But last night, they ended a 16-game slide against the Warriors. I think that dates back to the LeBron era. That's how long it's been since we
Was that
Golden
Christmas
State.
Day game?
It's been a minute
Christmas
or
Day.
2.
Yeah.
So how nice did that feel, just seeing Cleveland come out and beat this specific franchise?
It felt pretty good, because so many of those guys are still with Golden State, too. You still see Draymond, Curry, Clay, Kerr still coaching. I do love Kerr, though. But, I saw getting downtown yesterday. I saw a lot of Golden State fans, and I'm just these Golden State Warriors, enough is enough. Can we finally win? That blew my mind that they hadn't beaten them in that long of a stretch, but hey, the Cavs came out and they balled, and they're healthy, and I think that's the biggest thing, and that's what a lot of the players have said too. No one's worried about, the kind of slow start they've gotten off to, because, this is just now their second game playing with everyone healthy, and having Jared Allen and Evan Mobley in the paint makes such a difference.
It looks different,
when you've got both of those 7-footers down there. It really changes the entire dynamic of this team.
Well, Donovan Mitchell goes for 31 last night. He's averaging 32.5 so far on the season. Is he a superstar to you? Is he a top 10 type of talent that can actually lead a franchise? Because we saw in the playoffs last year, not good enough to get by the Knicks. Does he have that type of it factor where he can carry a team?
For sure. I mean, he's the guy that you want to make plays down the stretch, and I think he is that guy too. I do think sometimes he becomes a little too hero heavy, and sometimes it's just him and the rest of the team is standing around sort of waiting to see what he does. But having Darius Garland back makes him so much better, because people will focus on Mitchell, and then Garland can kind of run the offense and do his thing, and that leads to open opportunities for Strus or for Karis LeVert or any of those bigs down there. So I do think Mitchell, I remember I wasn't quite sure how the trade was going to work when he came here, because I was actually really excited for OH.Report to play with these tall guys that we had, and I thought the Cavs had a good core and everything. And I was this Mitchell thing might kind of ruin it. and I don't think it's done that at all. I think he's pretty solid and legit, and gives the Cavs like a real shot to really kind of make any sort of run that they want come playoff time if he steps up. The Knicks series was really weird last year. I know there was a lot going into that with him playing against New York, and it was a lot of the first time playoff experience for so many of these guys on the Cavs too, that I think the moment was just a little too big for them.
Well, if you round up Okoro's scoring numbers, we actually got 7 dudes that are putting up double figures every single night, Andy. Do you feel like this is a little bit deeper roster than we even had a season ago? Because to me, it feels like they probably got 10 guys that they're pretty confident in.
It's interesting because like the bench has kind of been the biggest issue for them recently. I was surprised Lamar Stevens was like a guy that they got rid of this offseason. I kind of felt like he was like that spark you needed off the bench. But bringing in a guy like Max Strus has been huge, because then you bring Karras now in off the bench, and LeVert can make plays. Okoro has really stepped up his game this year. So yeah, they've got some dudes. George Niang is like another guy too that they brought in that I think has just done a really good job. And Tristan Thompson is back. You've got like,
love it.
I can't remember if it was JB who said this after the postgame the other night, but like you've got like dudes that have been there on your bench now. Like they're adults. They've got guys that have been through this before and have the experience, and I think that goes a long way in trying to like help, you know, Okoro, Garland, and some of the younger guys continue to grow and develop.
We were one of the best teams at home last season, and then we come out of the gates and we dropped 3 in a row in a little homestand there. So I thought that was kind of strange, but it is what it is. It's a long season. That's why they play 82 of these games. Do you see Cleveland actually contending with the Bucks this year in the Central, or are we a little bit of a Fugazi perhaps in that competition going head-to-head with a team that I think is a lot of people's pick, if not the Celtics, to emerge from the East?
I was going to say, with the way that the Celtics are scoring like 150 points a night right now.
Adam Thompson's smiling over here.
Yeah, I think the Cavs, I think best case scenario, you're a top 4 seed again and you're hosting that first round of the playoffs. But I think that they've got, we'll see, because I like what I've seen now. Obviously, yesterday's win against Golden State, they were all healthy. And they had some moments in that Pacers game the other night, too, where it's like, okay, you could see when like things started to click as they started to get more time together out there on the court, that it was like, okay, this is kind of the Cavs team that we expected them to be. But I think top 4 is kind of the ceiling of this team. And if they can make it through a first-round playoff series this year, I think that would obviously be another big step for them. And then maybe getting some more of that experience under their belts would maybe give them a chance to pull off an upset. I mean, we saw what Miami did last year, making it all the way to the finals. So, like, you never know. You get in and you play your best ball and come out on top. You see what happens.
We've got a score update on Monday Night Football. Travis, what just happened?
Well, first touchdown bet just went down the drain because the Chargers took a punt back for a touchdown. Yeah, that hurts. It's Darius Davis with the punt return touchdown. But back to basketball. One more question about basketball. Andy, when do the Cavs play the Nuggets?
Oh, God. I have to schedule. It's coming up relatively soon.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, November 19th.
Oh, wow.
Are we gonna have the Nuggets?
I don't know if we'll do the Nugget Challenge again this year or not. We'll see. It is a home game for the Cavs, so we might be able to pull something off. I don't know if we'll have as extravagant of a production as we did last time, where I shot a very dramatic open. That was Emmy nominated, by the way. We did not bring home the Emmy, but still, that was fun to at least be in consideration for that. So we'll see. Yeah, that's the 19th of November, so about 2 weeks from yesterday. Yeah.
There it is.
There it is. Yeah,
that shot right there.
That was the interstitial we used to bring in. Julie Arnold does our graphics work on the Cavs production, and she threw that together, and I was just like, Julie, you are fantastic.
It looks like an Emmy-nominated performance just from that screenshot right there, buddy.
You look like you ate about.
Yeah, I don't know if I got
nominated
nominated
that picture.
I don't know if we got nominated for creativity or for my wonderful acting. That's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of still.
Little combo.
Speaking of taking care of business, taking care of things, the Cleveland Guardians took care of their open coaching managerial vacancy. Trevor Vogt,
Welcome,
former
sir.
catcher,
Welcome to the Clee.
journeyman catcher,
Trevor.
is now
Don't you mean Steven?
Stephen
Stephen
Vogt.
Vogt.
Trevor
Okay.
Vogt. Trevor Vogt.
Yes.
Trevor Vogt's the quarterback for Colonel
Yeah,
Crawford. He's not ready for the big leagues yet. Let him
I'm
finish his
still
senior
in
year of
football
high school,
mode.
dog.
Stephen Vogt, journeyman catcher, first ever managerial debut here too. What are the thoughts? I know this is a great hire inside the clubhouse, but the mind of Mr. Vogt, how's that's going to go with the Guardians?
I mean, I feel like no matter who you bring in after Terry Francona is always going to be like, huh. But like Stephen Vogt was like a guy that they wanted, and a lot of people around baseball seem to think that like he's the right guy for this team. I think having a catcher as a manager is a great thing too, because like they kind of manage the game all the time anyway. So I think bringing a catcher in for that is good. He's young. This team is young. I think you're going to see a lot of young managers kind of start to become like a thing. It's funny too. So Stephen Vogt, his last MLB plate appearance, he hit a home run with the Oakland A's. Cleveland opens up next season in Oakland. Like, I just think
Or
that
in Vegas.
it's crazy how, like, no,
That
it'll
stuff's-
still be Oakland.
Yeah, that
They
seems
won't-
to happen all the time. Like you saw in the NFL
Yeah.
this past week with Antonio Pierce, or the new coach, going up against his old team and the Giants, and
Yeah.
that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But trying to
It's
replace
crazy
Terry
how that
Francona
works.
and what he did for 11 seasons in Cleveland, I mean, the dude's not even 40. He's got some big shoes to fill, so I'm wishing him a lot of luck. But he's coming behind a legend, and make no mistake about that.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing, too, that we'll have to wait and see, because, like, Tito got more out of less than I think anyone else in baseball could. So we'll see how the guys rally around Steven. They might, be able to get behind a guy that's kind of been there recently, and we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. But, I mean, there's still a lot of talent coming back for the Guardians, so I guess it really just comes down to now how Steven manages in-game to see how he does.
Well, we had a former manager in the MLB and a pretty good player to visit Mansfield just a couple of days ago. Mr. Pete Rose stopped by for a little unfiltered storytelling and some Q&A as part of a fundraiser for Ontario baseball. Over 200 people were out there. This guy was as funny as everything that I expected from him. I got, Andy. But as a baseball dude, since I know that you love the sport, you're a purist through and through, just your thoughts on Rose and kind of his legacy in baseball, because he's one of those dudes, like he transcends the sport. He goes way beyond even MLB fans, and if you care about baseball, I mean, this dude, he's a personality to the umpteenth degree.
Put him in the Hall of Fame. I don't know what we're
Absolutely.
doing. I mean, it makes no sense to me. Like, unbelievable how he's not in. And it's funny, too, how, like, almost way ahead of his time with now how gambling has become so prevalent everywhere, and it's legalized here in Ohio and many other states. It's like, what are we doing? It's like some of the things that, like, we decide as a society when it comes to sports and whatnot, like, I don't get it. Like, give Reggie Bush his Heisman back. Like, why are we vacating wins for Tattoo Gate in Ohio State? Like, what are we doing? There are NIL deals now. Like, none of this is things just happen before, like, they're socially acceptable. It's called change. It's called progress. Let's go back and give people their due diligence here and get them in the Hall of Fame. Let's go.
Amen. Amen, brother.
I can almost hear
Get off
Cher
my
in
lawn,
ear.
too.
Yeah.
If we could turn back time. It just feels like all those things should come to fruition, Andy. And you're right. And he got a standing ovation. The last question he was asked, nobody really had the courage to ask him quite at the beginning about baseball
Sure.
betting and being restricted from the hall. And his great answer was, "This is America, the land of second chances. I promise I won't need a third." Everybody got up out of their chair and applauded, because it's true.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
the man
Let's
needs to be in there. But speaking of gambling, Andy, it's Monday Night Football, which means it's time to get in Yin's bets, and it's a little bit late. But Travis and I, we always like to come up with a little parlay, dip our toe in the water, and see if we can make a couple of bucks together. So, Trav, tell us how we're going to get rich tonight.
Well, it's not off to a great start right now because of the punt return touchdown,
early.
but still, Austin Eckler, he's a guy that can catch the ball in the end zone or rush it in there. It's one of those great multi-dimensional running backs. So anytime touchdown for him.
Yep.
Breece Hall, he's gone over 60 yards only once. That was against your former state team in the Denver Broncos. Other than that, he really hasn't done well. And, the Chargers have a pretty good rushing defense. So under 59.5 rush yards. Keenan Allen, 50-plus receiving yards. He's 70 away from 1,000 or from 10,000 yards receiving in his career. So you got to think they're going after that. Also, he's had over 7 receptions, I think, in 5 of the last 7 games. So
over
over
my fantasy team, he's been a monster.
Over 6.5 receptions for tonight. In the final one, the Jets over 12.5 points. So I think maybe a touchdown, a couple field goals as well. But we're not even 5 minutes into the game. It's still 7-0. But so hopefully this is what we're going to do. You always get the 50% boost on DraftKings. With that, it would pay $96.25 back. That's the winnings plus the money that you bet. And then without the 50% boost, $10 pays $67.50. So hopefully we finally hit one because the hook has hit me a couple times on these bets.
Just right in the belly, right?
Yeah. So one of these days. And we also I think FanDuel had a first touchdown bet with Eckler and Wilson, but it took the punt back, so that really just scratched that out to start things there. Any bets for you, Jardy, tonight?
Dude, the NFL does not treat me well. I took the night off. It's terrible.
Not even the opening of college basketball?
What's that?
Not even with the opening of college basketball tonight?
Oh no! We're well invested into the college basketball.
Okay.
I didn't touch the NFL.
You need any score updates?
Sure. Give me the what's going on with the Cleveland State?
Cleveland State is playing Duquesne, right? Duquesne. Dukes.
Yes.
Let's take a look.
Fighting Keith Dambrotz, former coach of Akron, and knocked out my Golden Flashes many a times in the NCAA or the MAC tournament, and former LeBron James coach in high school.
57-57 with 12 minutes left.
Oh man, what a barn burner over in Duquesne, right outside of Pittsburgh.
It is. It's in Moon Township. About
I've been
25
been
minutes
on
away from my buddy in Chester,
campus.
West Virginia. They have a Permane Brothers there. It's where the airport is also. Pittsburgh International. A couple, actually, my brother's 2 best friends go right outside there at Robert Morris College. But any other scores, real quick, before we get...
Is Ohio State still, losing? What is happening there?
They're up 4 now, Andy.
Okay.
56-52.
So they're taking the lead.
They're getting it together.
8 minutes
I
left.
saw North Carolina is now up 9 on Radford.
Yep.
The Dukies tip off in about 25 minutes. That'll be a slaughter over Dartmouth. Looking forward to that.
West Virginia's built a 51-46 lead, so I'm starting to get happy here.
I believe they were 4.5 point favorites.
5.5.
That is right on the nose.
So
how do they know? How do they know? They always know.
Who knows?
There's more to the story than meets the eye, Andy. There's that whole substation of people pulling the strings that we don't have access to, and they just get it right.
Lock of the night. The lock of the night, as it's going final here. Purdue minus 19.5 against Samford was easy money that they were giving away.
Edie money?
Yes. Well done, Travis.
Gotta have one in there. Gotta fit one in there.
Since he said eat, I think it's time, Andy. It's National Nacho Day. Thanks to our friends at Pancho's Tacos, we've got steak and chicken cuisine here, and they got that Mexican. They got 3 different styles of cheese on top of this. So, Mr. Jardy, I know that you're a sucker for some good food. So, if you were building the perfect nacho, what's going on top here?
Oh man, put me on the spot here. I gotta have hot peppers. Hot peppers are such a thing for me. Some chicken on there, throw a little cheese on there. We'll be good to go. Yeah. I had chips and salsa earlier today. So good. Just the perfect snack.
A little cheese, or do you like it overflowing, like it's a volcano of
No. I'm actually not a big cheese guy to begin with, but we can do a little bit. It just doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah. I feel like we're on college game day when they deliver the food before they do the picks.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cheese on these, so we'll probably have to dive in with some forks here, Andy. Might want to order some nachos to the crib here for that Duke game. Even got
Okay.
a couple
Yeah.
couple of marks to go here. I mean, we're taken care of.
Again, you were telling me about this before we came on, and I was like, well, why was I not told these things were going to be provided? I would have drove down and I'd have been in there.
Well, that's I don't know.
We thought it was Romantic Monday out there in Lakewood, but
See?
we didn't know what you had going on, Andy. You know, cuddling up with some Netflix and chill. But I should have known better with college hoops tipping off. Like,
Oh yeah,
Our mistakes.
it's Michigan State James Madison's about to tip off right now. Looking forward to this one. Next week, college basketball's got to get this taken care of though, because like your season's tipping off tonight, and like all of the games are just terrible. Like next week, obviously you get the Champions Classic, and that'll be really good.
Yeah, you get those Thanksgiving tournaments.
Feast week is like one of the best weeks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we wrap things up, Mr. Twitch as well, what games you playing over on the Twitch?
So the new Mario came out not too long ago. Last week, 2 weeks ago, Super Mario Wonder. Incredible game. Highly recommend. Mario franchise never steers you wrong. That's been a lot of fun. Outside of that, I haven't really been streaming a whole lot lately because work has gotten busy again and whatnot. But like Sonic, there's a new Sonic game that came out, which is more of like your classic Sonic side-scrolling kind of game, which was pretty fun. I beat that. And then the remake of Super Mario RPG is out next week, so that'll be fun. A lot of Mario. We're back on the Nintendo kind of trip right now. It was a lot of PlayStation there for a bit, but now we're back playing the Switch quite a bit. So yeah, I'll be streaming probably tomorrow, maybe tonight. Still, I haven't decided.
Sometimes
yet.
I even jump on the audio, have conversations, and talk about stuff. Where can we find you on the Twitch?
It is at Jarsno. That's JARSNO. That's where you'll find me. So yeah.
all right, Andy, since you're here and we're busy, you want to go ahead and close out the show for us?
Sure. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to the OH.Report Podcast. In playoffs, let's go. I'm excited to be on the call of the Shelby game Friday. That should be a lot of fun. I'm excited I don't have to travel far, actually, to do a game. Elyria is just about 30 minutes from me, so that'll be a nice little drive for me. And everyone have a great rest of your week. Don't forget to get out and vote tomorrow, too. Like, I don't care who or what you vote for, but, like, just vote, people. Please, it's the best part about America. Go out and vote. And, yeah, have a great rest of your week, and I'll be in touch with you guys on Friday.